Welcome back. Double guy around for a couple of weeks, but he's always off flying off doing college football games and college basketball starting now. Did a lot of work down in Atlanta with the Braves and baseball. He is our pal and Mount St. Joe alum, my first friend in media at the Baltimore News American and Sports First in January of 1984. He's down in Atlanta and former front office member of the New Orleans Saints and the Atlanta Falcons. He still lives down in Atlanta. We welcome Chris Pika back on. You can find him at Blog and Tackle out on Twitter, and also doing good stuff for the Pro Football Writers of America, as well as the Bahamas Bowl, which has a new title sponsor. Chris, I want you to give me the new title sponsor of the Bahamas Bowl because I want to have some fun with that.
Well, the Makers Wanted Bahamas Bowl is basically, Makers Wanted is the slogan for Elk Grove Village in Chicago, and they have the largest industrial and technological park in the United States. And it was something that they're very proud of with over 5,600 businesses, but they wanted the nation to know that they're still open for business and have room for other businesses and tech companies that want to come in and use that space in a great community. They thought really out of the box with this. This was something they looked at a year ago. They have done advertising with the Cubs and Blackhawks locally in the Chicago area, but they wanted to take it to a national audience. And they thought a bowl game would be the best way to do that. So we're happy to have them on board with us for 2018.
Makers Wanted. I dig that. So, look, man, it's bye week here. And I know, you work for the Saints, you work for the Falcons. You love to tell some tales about the dark side of, what losing means to people like you that work in the office around there. Certainly for the Ravens at 4-5 right now, anywhere in the coaching. And look, you worked in the league, and they say not for long. That's usually the story in the league. There's been incredible stability here, Chris, and it was the first post-game after the game on Sunday where every question at every locker was about the head coach and his job security. I haven't seen that here in 23 years. I guess that makes me lucky, right?
Yeah, it's really lucky. I mean, I think some of the best teams in the NFL over a long period have generally had stability at their major positions: ownership, GM, head coach. The team that the Ravens lost to, was certainly fit in that category, the Steelers. I mean, if you think of the Steelers, they've had 3 head coaches, in the last 40 years. They don't have a lot of turnover in the general manager position, and they've got ownership, the family ownership that's had it, forever. So that kind of stability helps you. But it feels like, at least to me and probably to many others, that you're going to have some changes already. You already have the heir apparent. Eric DeCosta is going to move into Ozzy's role at the end of the year. Maybe we may be, who knows? I mean, as far as Joe Flacco is concerned, and certainly about John Harbaugh. And so it feels like the season's a little bit on the brink. The bye week comes probably at the best possible time for them to try to kind of right the ship. They've had issues that have had nothing to do with the head coach or the quarterback, and a lot of that's injuries on the offensive line, some defensive issues, some wide receivers that have had tough days. And admittedly, Joe Flacco got off to a great start and hasn't been doing that well the last few weeks. So the question is, what did he do right in the first few weeks he's not doing right now? And you have a chance over the bye week, and I've said this several times over the years, this is a good opportunity for you to self-scout and look at your own film and your own situation and see how teams are attacking you. What are you doing that other teams are picking up on that why you're not being successful? Yes, other teams try too, okay? Steelers played a great game on Sunday. So did the Panthers, so did the Saints. These are teams that are, have had some success against the Ravens. So you have to look at yourself a little bit during this bye week and try to figure out how you're going to get down the home stretch and find enough victories to get yourself into the playoffs. It seems like if they don't make the playoffs, then there's going to be a lot more changes than just Eric DeCosta in the general manager's chair.
Chris Pika is here. He is Blog and Tackle out on Twitter, and one of our friends here that likes to discuss the inner workings of all of this. You've been at this a long time, and I talked to John Eisenberg earlier. Luke and I have been at this last couple days. So if the profile of this team is in gray, right, on a bar chart, it isn't John Harbaugh, it's 11th year head coach. It isn't Joe Flacco, it's 11th year quarterback in his mid-30s. It's a 36-year-old rush end. It's a 33-year-old safety. It's a 35-year-old guard in Marshall Yanda. This becomes a little bit of an aging bunch at 4 and 5, and even with success this year, change was going to be inevitable around here in a lot of ways. But nothing spurs on change like 4 and 5 at the bye week and a struggling team where if you are playing out the string in December, I have no doubt that Lamar Jackson will be the starting quarterback against Tampa Bay if the Ravens pick up 2 more losses between now and then.
Right, and your friend and mine, Rick Venturi, always used to say in the Saints building when he was our defensive coordinator, he said, "You're always a 3-game losing streak away from bagging groceries," and that's really what and it's true. It's really what it feels like. And we went through this during the Katrina year in '06. We got off to a start. We thought, hey, maybe some momentum about everything had gone on, and then the bottom just dropped out, and they got to a point where they said, we need to sit the quarterback. We pretty much knew that Jim Haslett was gone as a head coach. They were going to sit Aaron Brooks at quarterback. They were going to let Todd Bauman, finish the season at quarterback the last few weeks. There was an air of inevitability, and the Ravens are not at that point yet. They still have games in front of them against teams, admittedly tough down the stretch, but teams they can beat on their best days.
Well, you beat Cincinnati, you beat Oakland, and everything's deodorized a little bit, and you're 6 and 5, and we can get the pom-poms out for my trip down to Atlanta with you, which I hope we enjoy some beverages together as we usually do. So
right, and so so that's the thing. It's you're never as bad as you look right now as they're looking after a 3-game losing streak, and people may forget a little bit about that if they can turn it around here in the second half. I mean, there's still probably one playoff spot in the AFC that's going to be very much up for grabs going into the final month, and they've just got to get to the final month with an opportunity. Now, if the bottom continues to drop out, then I think we all know, where this is going to lead at the end, and I think you're right. They'll want to get an extended look at Lamar Jackson at quarterback. They'll, and the writing's going to be on the wall for a lot of different things.
Chris, for you with the Flacco-Jackson experiment and how this thing was supposed to work, how they wanted it to work, I don't even know what they're trying to do at this point. Or, and I sort of got into that, like, at what point does the lever go off and you say, we're not going to have Joe under center, that the best play we have right now doesn't include our $25 million quarterback, who, by the way, started back on the 8-yard line, and we got the ball down here to the 12-yard line now, and now we're going to line him up as a decoy like a Canadian goose, I say, out on the left side. He's just going to stand there. We're going to play 10 on 11 and have this kid run around with the football, and I don't understand it. On its merits, I don't understand it, and I know they're trying to integrate this thing in, and I know deep down there are a lot of people in the building wondering whether Lamar Jackson's ever going to be an 11, 12, 13-win quarterback for this franchise in this league. The jury's still way out on that, and 3 weeks ago we thought Flacco could win 11 or 12 this year.
That's a difficult question. And I'll go back to what happened in Cleveland. I mean, you got Hugh Jackson as head coach who basically wanted control of the offense. Okay.
Because his job depended on that. If he was going to keep his job.
Exactly.
Right?
And so there was some internal strife about Todd Haley and how he ran the offense and what ownership was allowing him to do. He felt like he needed to have control of that as the head coach. So you see that dynamic play out, and it can be very difficult. There's a lot of egos involved in the coaching offices. Don't anybody kid you. These guys are at the top of their game, at the top of their profession. There's a reason for that, and a lot of these guys have a pretty healthy ego to go with it.
Well, it's all alpha. And, I mean, literally, it's alpha everywhere, literally.
Right, and so you go in with that game plan, whether it's offense or defense or the head coach, and you think this is going to work. And when it doesn't work and you're being questioned about it and you're sitting in the staff meeting on Monday morning and, you're getting questioned by the head coach, hey, maybe we don't need to do it this way. The owner is in a meeting on a Monday with the head coach asking, what are you guys doing here? There are pressures from all sides. And, sometimes you can outsmart yourself as a coach. I mean, I remember walking into Ron Zook's office who was the defensive coordinator for the Saints for a few years, is now the special teams coach up in Green Bay. And Ron's a really good guy, but he's an incredibly intense coach. And it can almost wear guys out on the pro side. It was easier for him in college than it was in the pros. But you go on the wall, and he literally had, I think, about 30 plays on the wall, and they were all blitzes. And on that wall, he had check marks for how many times he had called that particular play over the course of the season, so that he wouldn't call a certain play so many times that they got predictable later in the year, especially in the playoffs. Okay, and sometimes you just got to call your best play, even if you're using something you've used 4 or 5 times before, and the opposing team may or may not be ready for. I mean, for those of us a certain vintage and older, our parents and grandparents, we all knew what Green Bay was going to do with the sweep, right, in the 60s.
Then you couldn't stop
it. But we dare you to stop it, okay? And so sometimes, in order to try to be as unpredictable as possible, you put yourself in a bad hole, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. And maybe that's the case here at Marty Morningwig. Maybe he's just trying to outsmart the other coaches rather than, hey, what's our best play here regardless? If we run it and execute it the way
especially when you're kicking their ass for 60 yards up and down the field, and then you go into gadget
exactly
world, and the kicker comes out and kicks a field goal, and Flacco's standing there with his hands on his hips, as he should. He's been the leader of the franchise for 11 years. It's just it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't make sense to me.
No.
But they say Lamar's the best athlete, the best. Then fine, make him a wide receiver or a running back then. I mean, but he doesn't want to be that. He wasn't drafted to be that. He brought his mom in to say he wasn't going to be. So, now you have this push and shove, and when things are 4 and 5 and it's bye week and the coach's ass is on the line and all the coaches, and look, the quarterback's got $100 million and a beautiful family up in Philadelphia. He'll go quarterback the Dolphins next year. John will go coach the Cardinals or whoever. You'll go coach another team next year, and life will go on. But it's what are you trying to do here in the future for Lamar Jackson? If you believe he's your quarterback, then let him play. But I don't think you can have 2 quarterbacks and have this be successful. I've never, ever seen it be successful, and I guess there's a reason for that.
Well, it's one thing if you do a change of pace and you have him in for like an entire series or group of series. Let's say you're trying to run, and I know that, I think there have been times this year where Joe Flacco's been more effective in a hurry-up offense, okay, where you find the first read, you hit him, you keep moving, but you try to put the defense on their heels a little bit. You have to play to your team's strengths, and you have to call your plays that other teams can't stop, and that's where I think the frustrations are boiling up here. It's like the Ravens are trying to shoehorn a lot of things into that offensive playbook on a given week. We've got to get Lamar X amount of snaps, or we're going to do this. And sometimes it almost confuses the offense. You have to go in with a plan. If you're going to use Lamar Jackson, use him on a series. Have him in there for 5, 6, 7 plays as a change of pace if the game's not going your way, or you feel like the opponents would have a hard time adjusting to a faster offense. If you're having success in no huddle and you're taking it to the other team, stay with it. Okay, you don't need to change it just to try to be unpredictable. And I think that's been a large issue up in Baltimore.
I am Nestor. He is Chris Pika. He is Blog and Tackle out on Twitter. We're discussing all of the Ravens' many, many issues. We're going to get into the NFL as well, as Chris does bang around the league a little bit these days. As a former member of the Saints and the Falcons front office, as well as the Bahamas Bowl, and doing games and putting up blue Smurf turf out in Boise and giving me good Cuban recommendations. All of our WNST programming brought to you by the Model Lyric. Get to their website and see all the shows. I'm going to list them for you. Sesame Street Live coming up next week. Charlie Brown Christmas on December 9th. That's to take the kids, the grandkids, anyone you want. Great family shows and all kinds of music. Kansas and Ronnie Platt, the new lead singer of Kansas, spent some time with us. You can find that up in the BuyAToyota.com audio vault, as well as David Ragsdale, the violinist from Kansas. So 2 Kansas interviews. That's on November 24th. Straight No Chaser on the 25th with their beautiful sounds. And the Beach Boys with their Christmas show on December 2nd. John Mellencamp, February 20th. And I know that Chris Pike would love some Joe Bonamassa Bonamassa on March 15th at the Modell Lyric. There's magic at the Modell Lyric. Learn more at modell-lyric.com. Sporticulture providing our beautiful pansies. I got beautiful purple pansies here, and they ship these flowers anywhere, even to Atlanta, in places like a Flowery Branch, where now Chris Pika is. One click away. It is sporticulture.com, officially licensed NFL flowers as well as collegiate. One click, one send, and beautiful flowers come your way. And when my cat loves the smell of the flowers, she comes running in. Chris Pika is here. He is Blog and Tackle. He's been my friend since 1984, and you start to do the math on all of this, and you look at the other teams in the league, and I think what the Saints and the Rams and the Patriots and the Chiefs have really elevated themselves right now, and especially that Saints-Rams game, which was great. We're seeing good teams sort of separate themselves, but the rest of this thing is still very much a mess. And I can't say the Ravens are any better or any worse than any of these teams. And I can't say the Ravens can't win 4 games in a row right now, because I think they could, but it certainly doesn't smell good here at the turn. The only saving grace is nobody's running away and hiding right now.
No one's running away and hiding. And again, the great equalizer, as the Ravens have kind of found this year, and they've found it in past years, is injuries, okay? It's, how healthy can you stay down the stretch? And that leads to that leads to help you to a lot of things. I mean, the Saints are very healthy. The Rams are very healthy. The Patriots, for the most part, very healthy. And the Ravens had a year where they had a lot of guys hurt and still managed to pull through it and make a long playoff run. So I mean, it's not impossible, but that tends to be the equalizer down the stretch. And there are a lot of teams that are just kind of okay. They're not great. They're not horrible, except if you're in Oakland. So the rest of the league is sort of fair to middling, I guess, if you want to say it that way. And so that gives the Ravens an opportunity. That gives a lot of fan bases hope that, hey, you get on some sort of run here in the second half, we can make the playoffs and make some noise.
Well, and certainly they're making noise with offense in other places. And we saw the Saints come in here and run around with this Lamar Jackson Wildcat hybrid RPO thing and have some success with it. We've seen McVay go out to the Rams, and that stands to be an incredible story, right? Like, that franchise moving out there, playing in that old dump, having no fans, and nobody really believing that anything out of Stan Kroenke was going to turn that thing around. Like we all said, the only thing that would save football in L.A. was if they win, and both teams are winning. And the Rams are winning in a way that is exciting. It's turning people on. It's sort of revolutionary. That's the most exciting story in the sport, I think, right now.
Well, listen, they've taken a lot of concepts that I see on college football Saturdays. Okay, they run the jet sweep. They run a wide open offense. They run a spread. They make life very, very difficult for the defense. And to be fair, the rules now really favor the offense and has for several years. And you're watching basically what I used to see in New Orleans with the Voodoo, arena football. These are teams that are going to put up 40 and 50 points a game. And I thought, the Rams Saints game was tremendous, but I sure as heck didn't think the Rams were going to get deep pantsed in the Superdome. Okay, I thought they were going to stay, 1-for-1 with the Saints for the entire day, but Drew Brees is doggone ageless, and they've given him a lot of weapons, and Baltimore fans saw that a few weeks ago. Their defense is okay, but they don't necessarily have to be great. They just have to make sure that they keep it under whatever number Drew Brees decides to throw for and how many points that they put up on the board on a given week.
Well, and then there's defense in the league where we're not sure of the rules, playing the rules, hitting high, hitting low, hitting late, hitting hard, hitting too hard. All of that's gone in, and this is the league that they want, right? They want an arena-style game, but more than that, Chris, and I am all for taking the kill shots out of the game, and I think the game's changed dramatically right before our very eyes in the last 2, 3, 4 years, quite frankly. But I do like that Cam Newton is standing upright when I get to Charlotte last week. I do like that we have a representative version of Ben Roethlisberger and Joe Flacco playing in Week 9. I like that we're going to have a representative version of Andy Dalton and Joe Flacco playing in Week 10, right? So I like that the quarterbacks are standing. So for that, I dig it. I think they need to reset the rules a little bit, and I think they do need to help pass interference. And I've been long and hard on the pass interference as a replayable, reviewable item, and I know everybody thinks I'm nuts, but you got to get that call right because that was the only call the Ravens had in their offense on Saturday was pass interference. It was their offense on Sunday.
Well, let me take just a step back here on that. And as far as we talk about defense and hits, I think most of the players in the league have adjusted to the new rules, and I think the league's officials have adjusted to how the league wants them to call that. Make no mistake, this was some of the rules changes that we've seen, especially in hits and defenseless receivers, are a business decision of the league. Okay. They've gotten sued for CTE and concussions, okay? They have to show that they are a leader in trying to make the game safer. They're seeing somewhat dropping numbers of youth sports, kids playing football at younger ages, especially the recommendations that they wait till high school to play tackle football. College football has had to deal with their share of targeting rules and how you enforce that. And then theirs is pretty punitive when you miss the remainder of the game and the half of the next game for a targeting foul, which is something I'm not sure the NFL wants to necessarily go down that road. So it's all about trying to make the game safer from a business proposition. Yes, they want to make it safer for the players, but this is the owners saying, we're tired of getting sued on all this stuff. And we're looking at the future of the game as the pro game is about to turn 100 next year. The college football game is going to turn 150 next year. So this is where the game, where is the game going over the next 20 or 30 years? We've had big changes, even going back to the 1970s. I was watching something on YouTube showing John Unitas, and it was one of the Hall of Fame kind of tapes that NFL Films did. And if you saw and I think we all remember the types of hits that Unitas took at quarterback, headshots, okay, Conrad Dobler coming in, with clubbing him on the helmet, or guys taking cheap shots. Now with the money that's out there and the players that are out there, especially at the quarterback position, the league needs those quarterbacks to sell tickets. They need those quarterbacks to sell sponsorships. They need those quarterbacks to drive television ratings. So
it's a better game, dude. I got on a plane last year. I took poor Luke out to Green Bay, and we watched some guy that I don't even remember his name, play, right? Like literally, it was some guy not named Favre Rogers, right? Brett Hundley, I believe was his name. Now I'm trying to think of his name. Right. So, and I've seen the weeks where the Browns putting the Deshaun Kaisers out there and whatnot, and some of that was by design. But when the injuries happen, it changes everything. And I think the league is better for that, as much as people want to call it soft. And I don't like the kill shots. They knowing these players and seeing what it does to them, it's a gruesome thing. And I like that. I don't want flag football, but I also want it to be black and white from an officiating standpoint as to what is, not what might be or what it feels like to me right now. I'll give you an example, and you'll laugh at this because you sat in a lot of press boxes, okay? And I know you know these people. 2 weeks ago, the Saints were in here, right? Fourth quarter, I came down. First off, I believe the Ravens were going to be 5-2. Chris Pika is our guest, by the way, Blog and Tackle. I just want to reset that. And I got down to the press area, and in front of me, all the Saints PR and the Mickey Loomis types all sit literally right in front of me. And there were 4 or 5 of them down there. There was one gal, 4 guys, and they were all watching the TVs. And there was a play where someone dragged their feet in or out of bounds, or whether it was a catch, whether it was possession or whatever. I didn't remember the play, but it was in the fourth quarter. And there were 4 Saints officials, and one's looking at the left TV, one's looking at the right TV, and I hear them all mumbling. Oh, he didn't have the ball. Oh, he had the ball. He had the ball. Where his feet was it? No. Look, he dragged his foot right there. And they're arguing amongst themselves about whether it's a catch or not a catch. And I laughed at them, and just sort of out loud, I said, now you know what's going on in New York. And this is, these are 4 Saints officials arguing amongst themselves, all at a high level, all with their lives and their livelihoods at stake. They all want the call to go a certain way, obviously, but they're even arguing amongst themselves as to whether their guy caught the ball or was forced in or had 2 feet in, and they're watching the replay, and they're arguing in real time. 90 seconds after the play is done already, and there's no consensus, there's no nothing. And I'm thinking to myself, right there and there walks your problem, Chris, right? There it is right there. Nobody really knows what any of this is.
If you've stood on the sidelines at the end of NFL games when you get to be able to go down in the last 5 minutes, and I've been on the sidelines at plenty of games in the league, I don't think television never really shows you how fast the game is at field level. I think sometimes you see the referee cams on the hats. It gives you a sense of what they have to see doing the game. And there's 8 guys out there, and it's an incredibly fast game to officiate. It's an incredibly complicated game to officiate. And I truly believe that the officials in the NFL are the best in the world at what they do because of the pressure, because of the amount of hours they put into it, and all the different things that they have to learn. And it is difficult. And yes, replay has helped. It has slowed the game down, unfortunately, for TV, which I'm not a huge fan of. But it's about getting the call right. Do they need to put the pass interferences in replay? I hope they don't. But what I would like to see is I'd like to see the league go to the college rule, make it a 15-yard foul as opposed to a spot foul as it is now. I think that might kind of, too many teams are trying to take advantage of that and hope they get an interference call and pick up a 40-yard gain off of something like that. If it's 15 yards, maybe you don't have as much chicken fighting downfield because it isn't as big a penalty. Maybe it evens it up a little bit. So, it's a constant battle between coaches that are teaching players to play the game a certain way within the bounds of the rules, but stretching the rules as much as possible. And the league is trying to find every loophole and everything that they can find. Remember this week we had a call about an intentional grounding because the clock was stopped. Okay, and people are going, "What? Wait a second! I thought you're allowed to clock the ball." Yes, you are when the clock is running. If the clock is stopped, you're conserving time. It's a foul, and people forget that. And so, that's what I mean by incredibly difficult to officiate because of all the different things you have to know when you stand on that field and the decisions that you have to make on every single play.
Chris Pika is here. All of our WNST programming brought to you by our friends at the Lee Tessier team. I'm selling my condo. If you're selling your house, your condo, or you need to get into one, Baltimore's premier realty team are there to help you with your real estate transactions. With over 50 years of experience helping local buyers and sellers just like you need Lee Tessier. I got to know Lee through Leukemia Lymphoma Society when he was voted the man of the year there. Good man, working hard. He and Tim and their team working hard for us. They'll work hard for you as well. Learn more at Lee Tessier. That's TESSIER.com. Also, Charles Newsonoff & Sons since 1923. True love comes in all shapes and sizes, and there's something for everyone's budget. My wife's wedding ring right now is at Charles Newsonoff & Sons. They're fixing that up and giving her a new setting. See them in Parkville or see them at charlesnewsonoff.com where they say, let's grow old together. Also, Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast, the tasty coffee, the fried chicken. But don't forget the ROFO Rewards app and card. When you're pumping your gas, you get your points, you get your coffee free, you get your Western fries free, get some fried chicken free. I'm in the mood for some ROFO fried chicken. I might go get some. That's something that Chris can't get right now because he's down in Atlanta, some ROFO fried chicken. Chris Pika is our guest. He's blog and tackle. Chris, I'm going to leave baseball or football alone here and go to baseball. You watched a lot of Braves baseball this year. You were probably a baseball first guy, having worked with Michael Jordan and the Birmingham Barons back in the day many years ago. The Orioles, and you're an Oriole fan. You're a lifer. You're born into it. You fly your orange and black down there in Atlanta. This is disgraceful, dude. I mean, on top of 25 years of disgrace, this is unthinkable what they've done here, which is sort of abandon the fan base here all of a sudden.
Well, I'll take a different tact. And I've tried to look at this a certain way now that we're done with the World Series and we're now hard into the off season. I think they've chosen to do a silent search and keep names out of the press and try to talk to these candidates and do what they need to do in order to find a president or baseball or president or, vice president of baseball operations, a general manager, who then is going to have to rebuild the scouting systems, the international systems, analytics. Okay, it's a pretty big job, And so if they choose to do this in a silent fashion, with not a lot of news out of it, I mean, listen, that's the way they feel like they have to conduct that search. That's fine. I don't think they need to hold, and if I'm the PR person of the Orioles, at least the business PR person, I don't want the Suns out there doing a press conference right now. You have too many questions about the health issues of their father and questions about the succession of the franchise potentially to them, what the plans are going forward. And Peter is not in great health. And you know this because you went through 2 health battles with your wife. You chose to make those health battles public and to do some good from it. And some families choose to keep that in a private fashion for a lot of reasons, and basically it's their decision to make. So it's hard to run the Suns out there for any sort of press conference when the questions are going to be coming at them that they cannot answer or cannot choose to answer at the moment, have something to do with the health of their father.
How can you have 4.5 months to find a baseball guy, and it's the middle of November, and we got general managers meetings, and you ain't got one? You've got an offseason of free agency, and you ain't got one. How can the fan base have any confidence? And by the way, Chris, everyone that I've talked to inside the organization, people have been singing like orange birds to me lately, Chris. They all say that Brady's running the place anyway. So, and everyone in the industry sort of knows that if you're coming in here, Brady Angelos is Lou Angelos and John Angelos' brother from another mother, and that the relationship is so deep that you will be answering to Brady Anderson, or Brady will be doing whatever Brady wants to do, which is how this place has been going for about 5 years now.
But I also think you have to give the Suns the benefit of the doubt. This, for better or for worse, this is their show, okay? They have not been in a position of power to make the decisions that they're making, and you have to give them an opportunity to make those decisions in the manner that they see fit. It is obviously not the manner that their father did it in when he was in control of the club, but they want to do it a different way. So I think, and I'll be honest, and I know you talk to people within the organization, I'm saying as an outsider and as a fan, yes, I'd like to see some progress on this, and we'd like to see people in place. But I think, to be fair to the Suns, they're the ones that are now in this position, and this is the way they're choosing to do this. And they will answer the questions, and the general manager, and there'll be plenty of time for that when those people are in place. To say that they should do it X way or Y way, I mean, they have to make that choice for themselves, and they're going to be graded on those choices. They're going to be graded by the fan base. They're going to be graded by the media as far as who they get and what the plan is going forward. And a lot of the plan is going to be based on who they choose. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm preaching a little bit of patience here only because they feel like this is the best way to go now that they are in charge, and we'll find out whether that's a good way or bad way. I think, we looked at Peter Angelos, and you put that in your book years ago. No one knew what Peter was going to be like. He said he was going to run it a certain way at the beginning. That's not the way the franchise was run over the course of,
Well, the problem with Peter has been habitual lying. It's like the orange clown running the country. It's like, don't lie to me over and over and over again. And I got a half a fan base out here with the Orioles that thinks I've been the one lying for 25 years. It's outrageous, but here we are again. They don't have anybody running the franchise, Chris. There's no excuse for that in November if you are a competent organization. And I don't need the boys to come out and tell me about daddy. You know what I mean? Like,
I'll say it this way again. If you don't talk to the public at this moment because you're conducting a search, you cannot lie, okay? There's nothing on public record about how you made the decision.
I mean, come on, man. The search should have been going on in July and August. What's the Jack Nicholson, right, The Shining? You've had your whole life to think things over. You've had 3 years to find a new general manager. You deballed the guy you had. You knew he wasn't staying. There's some weirdness.
But we also know that the power in the office has only changed here in the last 11 months, maybe. At least if some reports to be believed.
This is an organization that let Dan Duquette take all of its groceries and spend them out in July and give these guys away and isn't even running the team anymore. Like, it's it's inconceivable. Like that they
could
have.
What did I tell you about the Saints when we fired Randy Mueller? Randy Mueller was still making deals and still doing what he needed to do for the franchise up until the time he was tapped on the shoulder and said, the owner wants to see you. Jim Haslett, Brian Billick, all know that. You work your rear end off and you do what you're charged to do up until the moment that ownership decides you don't have a job anymore, okay? And that's all Dan Duquette was doing. He was doing his job as it was charged to him by ownership up until the time they relieved him of his duties.
Yeah, have a fire sale and get rid of the contract for O'Day and give Gosman away to the Braves. You're welcome for that, by the way. By the way, Braves had a nice little run this year, right? Like you were a part of some fun there that hasn't happened there in a while, and I know they got spoiled on it down there, right?
Well, they were a year early, and part of that was because the rest of the division was fairly putrid. Washington was supposed to be really good. The bottom dropped out on them. The rest of the division was very bad. And the Braves beat the teams they were supposed to beat. But the one thing I saw down the stretch, especially over the final 2 months, and the trades really didn't help them in that sense, was they're still somewhat pitching poor, especially in the bullpen. Their bullpen was trash over the last 2 months of the season. They had a hard time holding on the leads. This was a team that had to score 5 or 6 runs a night in a lot of cases to really be in position. They didn't have that one guy that they could hand the ball to and say, go up and shove it up their rear ends for 8 innings and give them 2 hits. Okay? They didn't have a Scherzer or a Kershaw on that staff. Now, they got guys who could be that, and Kevin Gosman was partially that down the stretch. And then they felt that he was better in the bullpen for them in the playoff series. But Mike Foltynewicz, is a solid pitcher, but he was up and down all year. Julio Teheran struggled at home, pitched better on the road. I'm trying to think. Sean Newcomb came within a strike of a no-hitter against the Dodgers. Young kid, fireball, got great power, good movement, but he needs time. They don't have that key ace. But what they do have is they had very good defense. They had, Ender Inciarte at center field. They had Markakis in right, who had a great start offensively this season, although I think, he was kind of struggling towards the end of the season. Freddie Freeman's one of the best players in the game. They've got a very good young core of field players, and I think 1 through 6 in their lineup, especially because of Ronald Acuna Jr. and Ozzie Albies, they were as dangerous as any team in the National League 1 through 6. It's the bottom half of the lineup and kind of some of the things they were doing and the relief pitching that really hurt them this year in the playoffs. But, like I said, I think next year, if they can get some things done in free agency, I think they're going to be heard from very seriously as far as a World Series contender.
Machado made a name for himself, didn't he, Chris Pika?
Yeah, not in the way you'd like to, but I think at the end of the day, it's not going to matter to the agents. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter to his agents. It's not going to matter to the general managers and the managers, because everybody is going to think, once I get Manny in my building, I've got enough respect built up that if I tell him he's not going to do this, you're not going to do certain things, he's not going to do it, they're probably in for a rude awakening.
Well, of course, once he's got the $300 million contract, he'll do whatever he wants. So,
because he has the leverage over any manager.
Dude, these managers are making $800,000 now. How do they expect a manager to manage? Right. It's insane.
Well, and like I said, I look at the Braves, and the Braves gave the job to a career minor league coach, and Brian Snitker, who's a really, really good guy, and had the respect of the clubhouse. So he didn't manage via fear or banging tables. It was trying to figure out ways of getting his guys to play at their best and make the right moves. And he had some struggles on some things that he did, especially in handling the bullpen. Down the stretch in September that I think hurt him a little bit, but that's part of the learning process. But this is a different game managing these guys now. It's trying to find the best ways to do it, but you've got to have guys that'll buy in. And when you have a player that's making that kind of money that Machado and Bryce Harper is going to make, okay, these two guys are going to make a lot of money, and they bring a lot of talent, okay, and a lot of expectations. But they also bring a little bit of baggage too, and a good manager is going to have to find a way of figuring out how to mitigate that as much as possible. And I think Dave Roberts out in L.A. did the best job he could, especially knowing the Machado's a rental. He's not coming back to the Dodgers. There's no possible way. So how much can you get out of him in that season, in those situations, to help you win games, and hope the heck that he doesn't do something stupid that hurts you? And then, unfortunately, a couple of times he did.
Chris Pika can be found at Blog and Tackle, opining about the world of sports and traveling around to college football and college basketball and the bowl season coming up, as well as the Bahamas Bowl this year with a new sponsor for the Bahamas Bowl in Makers Wanted. And, man, every year Christmas in the Bahamas every year. You're like Jimmy Buffett, aren't you?
Yeah, our game is December 21st at 12:30 on a Friday. It's, the end of a work week for most, for the start of the long holiday weekend. So, we're happy for those that tune in and make the trip down, and then I get to be home for a day and then head off to Dallas to work the national semifinal with the Cotton Bowl. So the football continues into January for me before we get together in Atlanta for 10 days.
Well, I will be in Atlanta for 36 fleeting hours the first week of December when the Ravens come down there and see the new dome. Am I going to like the new dome down there? On TV, it sort of looks like the old dome to me, but I guess on TV lies, I'm sure it's quite plush inside, right?
Well, the roof is certainly the defining feature of that stadium. It is certainly an upgrade in seating and some of the amenities in that stadium that was in the Georgia Dome. If you're coming down to make the trip, they were sort of the first team to drop the concession pricing down to make it more affordable if you do have a ticket to the game. They're not gouging you on food and drink prices. So they have done some things very, very well. I'm probably more of a fan of Minnesota's new stadium because I think they've done some unique things in there that I think makes it more aesthetically pleasing and a lot of fun to watch a game in. When the roof is closed in Atlanta, if it's not a great day, it's pretty dark in there. They've got the TV lights and everything, but it's not nearly as wide open as what you saw in Minneapolis with how they do their roof and how they do their, some of their large doors on the one end of the stadium. So personal preference, I like their stadium more, but I think people will enjoy the experience of a game in Mercedes-Benz Stadium probably more than they did in the Georgia Dome.
Chris Pika is Blog and Tackle. He is from Baltimore, Mount St. Joe, Loyola, through and through. And I hope the next time we get together, somebody's running the Orioles, Chris. That's all.
I hope so, too.
And I hope the Ravens aren't sub 500 like they are for the next 2 weeks around here. So, been tough times around here, man. Take care of yourself, and I'll be looking for the latest blue Smurf turf from Boise State when you get out there. Give my best.
Looking forward to it, Nestor. Thank you.
Chris Pika has been my friend since January of 1984. That's 34 years, 34 and a half, almost 35 years next month, January. It'll be 35 years. Wow. You can find him at Blog and Tackle. He's down in Atlanta and running around doing all things sports and always has a great story to tell. You can find me out in the Buy at Toyota.com audio vaults 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. I am a very available individual. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.